Hey guys, on today's podcast, we have Mr. Tony Saris, the Executive Director of TCA Orange County, and I will talk to him about the application process, the screening process, and how you can raise money from TCA. All right, so stick around for the whole episode. I think you're going to learn a lot. Let's go. Hello, Tony. How are you? Welcome to the TCA Crossroads podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Custom?
I am good. Thank you for joining me super last minute. I basically sent you an email like 3 hours ago, and you were so gracious to accept and do this on the spot.
Well, it's great because this is top of mind. Today was a pre-screen pitch day, so I'm all geared up toward entrepreneurs and
Awesome.
their pitches.
Excellent. So, yeah, I've gone through the TCA process, but it's been something, I don't know, 7-8 years. And I figure some things have changed. And I just thought it would be very helpful for our entrepreneur audience who's out there they're working on their startup. It's hard. They're thinking about raising capital. And I want us to give them a really good sense of how to approach TCA and also what it takes to get funding from TCA so that they are well aligned when they go into this. So why don't we just dive in? Let's assume
Sure.
I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a great idea. At what point should I think about approaching TCA?
Well, a great idea is certainly not the right point, right? That's not far enough along in the process. We want you to be basically sort of pre-commercial. You have an MVP or at least a working prototype. But you definitely have to be a little farther along in the process than an idea. So we're assuming you had an idea, you either self-funded or you did a friends and family round, you got that idea into an actual instantiation of your product. Certainly doesn't have to be completely done at that stage, but it's got to be enough that you can go out and start getting some, real world feedback on the product, maybe get some early revenue. Something to really sort of prove the product market fit. And at that point in time, you're ready to come and talk to TCA.
Okay, excellent. So let's say I've got some early indicators of product market fit. What's my next step?
In terms of just approaching us, it's a pretty simple application process. You go to the website, techcoastangels.com. Under the Entrepreneurs tab, there's an Apply button. If you want to do a little homework in advance, look around the website, get a better feel for what TCA is about, look at our portfolio and see the kinds of companies we've funded. That'll probably be helpful background work that you can do. But when you're ready to apply, you hit the Apply button. It'll take you to a landing page that'll show you all the different TCA networks, of which TCA Orange County is one. If you want to apply to us, you click on Orange County and it'll take you to our actual application landing page, which is in the Spark XYZ deal platform. The first thing to look at there is, I was just going to say that the starting point there is spend definitely a few minutes looking at our application criteria, which really encapsulates our investment thesis. So that'll basically tell you where you need to be, what your deal needs to look like, to have a good fit with TCA and to actually get your application accepted.
Yep. And I wanted to make just a small comment though, like if I've never been to any startup events or if I've never met a TCA member, should I try to network a little bit? Should I try to kind of connect on an individual basis first? There's the concept of a deal lead. Should I do that before I apply, or can I just go apply and then kind of start the process after that? What do you think works best?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessary. You can certainly cold apply. You don't have to have any existing relationship with TCA. You don't have to have, sort of been around. But I think it's definitely a good suggestion to go to some startup events. We do an event we call Face to Face with Investors that we do 2 or 3 times a year. It's a great event to come and sort of informally pitch your startup idea to investors, ask questions about the process like you're doing today, basically. And you can get some exposure and you'll be in a better position to really understand sort of how you have to present your startup to investors in order to be able to get consideration for funding.
Awesome. And I think you might also be able to get a little bit of validation about your company if you do talk to some angels earlier before applying. But so now let's assume our entrepreneur has gone to the website, they've clicked the apply button, now they're looking at the Spark XYZ platform. What do they need to do to complete the application?
It's going to ask them a series of questions, basically the same sorts of things that they hopefully would expect that they need to tell an investor. Basically, the same sort of thing that's in their pitch deck, and we are going to ask them to upload a pitch deck, so they should already have, sort of a standard or typical pitch deck developed. So it's going to ask them things about, the company itself. They'll create a little company profile. They'll talk about the problem they're trying to solve, why their product is a solution for that problem, where they're at in the life cycle, if they're pre-revenue or revenue. They'll need to put in financial projections. We expect to see 3 to 5 year financial projections. You want to talk a little bit about your competition. You want to be able to talk about the team, and probably most importantly, you'll want to be able to describe the ask. You want to tell us, the nature of your deal, what sort of funding vehicle you're using, if it's preferred equity, convertible note, or a safe. And it's important to note in our case, that's the order of preference from equity to convertible note to safe. And we only look at post-money safes. We don't look at pre-money safes at all. So if that's your nature of your deal, you're not going to get any traction with it. So spend a little time, making sure that you've got your deal. You don't have to have everything cast in concrete. It's going to be the negotiation process with investors, but you should at least have a good idea of what your ask when you come in and apply to us.
Okay, so there's quite a bit to unpack there. The first one I want to zero in on is the ask for financials. A lot of early stage entrepreneurs aren't even thinking about that. And I know from having attended screenings, that is something we like to see, like you said, 3 to 5 years. So just as a bit of advice, assuming it's a technical founder, should they get a consultant? Should they get somebody to help them put together the financials before they even approach TCA?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of technical founders, unless they happen to be a founder in the fintech space, don't have a lot of financial background. I would say definitely find a friend who's a CPA or somebody who knows finance. You can go to the small business development centers. Those are great resources. They're part of the Small Business Administration of the federal government, so they're free to entrepreneurs. You can go to them, get some help in terms of putting together a financial model. Basically, you only need a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet to be able to put some assumptions in, run some numbers. We're not asking for you to have a detailed, pro forma necessarily, but at least a sense of what your revenue is going to be over that 3 to 5 year period, what your major expenses are, and what your profit is going to be prior to tax and amortization and depreciation. So
Yeah,
it's important for us, because if you just tell us what the if you tell us what the TAM, SAM, and the SOM is, that's just sort of a static number. So we want to see when you're going to be able to get to that SOM over that 3 to 5 year period.
Yeah. And just as a reminder for entrepreneurs, TCA and most angel investors are looking for a 10x on their return to make up for other companies that don't do so well. So as you're building your financial model, it probably would not be helpful to show, hey, in 5 years, we're going to be making $2 million in revenue. You probably want to show a model that's anywhere between 20 to $100 million in revenue. That's kind of the investments that, on average, angels are looking for. Would you agree, Tony?
Oh, definitely double digits. I mean, I think if and high double digits if we can get there, right? Because otherwise, it may be a great boutique business or lifestyle business for you, 2 to 4 or 5, 6 million. But if you're under 10 million at year 3 or 5, unless it's a very sort of a market that you would have difficulty growing, but somebody else could pick up and grow more easily, and you can make that argument about why you're not going to grow during that initial period, then I would say you definitely need to be into that higher ballpark.
Excellent. So, yeah, I would say if entrepreneurs are applying, they need those financials, and the financials need to show that kind of a picture so that it would be an attractive deal to TCA. Great. So let's assume they come. Oh, and the deck. They got to have a good deck. Okay. So they go through the form, they fill the
Definitely.
whole thing out, they hit submit, and what happens next, Tony? Where does it go, and how long do they have to wait?
It comes into an application review stage for us, and we're going to be checking the application to make sure that they've filled out all of the questions and that they generally fit that application criteria that we specified on the application landing page. Presuming that they do, then they'll get invited to what we call pre-screen, which is essentially a dry run of a full screening, only it's with a smaller number of our members. We do those twice a month, and we typically have 4 to 8 members, usually long-term experienced members who have a fondness for startups and entrepreneurs, and are willing to give a little bit of feedback and coaching. They'll listen to your pitch. If you get invited to a pre-screen, you'll do a 12-minute pitch uninterrupted, followed by 12 minutes of Q&A. And then we'll go off and discuss the deal. We'll make a decision about whether to advance it to a full screening in front of all of our members, or whether it needs maybe some more bake time, or in some cases it's just simply not going to be a fit for us. And in that case, we'll hopefully refer you to another group that we feel like would be a better fit.
Okay, awesome. So super helpful. So entrepreneur gets brought in, they do the pre-screen. How long does it take for them to hear back whether or not they made it to the full screening?
We try to have really fast turnaround after the pre-screen. It's typically 1 to 3 business days. So, when they apply the application, we try to review within a week or two. They'll know for sure whether they're getting invited to a pre-screen or not. We'll try to schedule that within probably 30 days. Sometimes our queue gets a little bit longer, but roughly a month. They'll do their pre-screen pitch. They'll hear back within 3 days, 3 business days, whether they make it to a screening, and then we'll schedule them for a screening. And again, it can be anywhere from a week to 6 weeks, depending on what our deal flow queue looks like. But we'll try to get them in as soon as possible.
Okay, got it. So we got that timeline. And then presuming that they've done well at the actual screening, what happens next as far as getting funded and raising the capital?
Yeah, the screening itself is very similar to a pre-screen. So they're going to go through the same process. They're going to do that 12-minute pitch, Q&A. The members will meet privately after that pitch to discuss internally. And we actually vote as members on a number of criteria, and we look at those votes. We have a good internal discussion, make a decision about moving to due diligence. And similarly to the pre-screen, one of the members will be designated as their contact person, and they'll get back to them with our decision and our feedback, again, within 1 to 3 business days. If we're starting a due diligence with them, it'll depend on how ready they are for that due diligence process, how quickly we can take off. If they have been working with other investor groups and they've got a deal memo from another investor group, that'll speed things along. If they're starting fresh, we're going to ask them probably to either spend an hour or so with us for what we call sort of deal maker or breaker questions, sort of top level Q&A, or we may send them a questionnaire that we have that they can fill out that'll cover basically what we call the table stakes of due diligence, and try to get most of those off of the table. They should have a data room at that point that should have all their sort of basic information about the company, their incorporation, their taxes, any existing financials, their business plan, their marketing plan, their go-to-market strategy, anything about their patent portfolio. They should have all of that stuff ready, and we'll start reviewing that at the start of the due diligence process.
Excellent. Yeah, and I highly recommend, even if you're just operating your business, organizing yourself with something like a Google Drive that can then easily serve as a data room in the future as investors want to look at your company. Okay, so how long does the due diligence process usually last when an entrepreneur is fairly well prepared? And how quickly does TCA come to a decision?
Typically, we shoot for no more than 30 days, and it can be a lot faster than that. Again, if there's a deal memo from another group, that'll speed it up. That'll half that time. In the best case scenario, I think where we had an existing deal memo and we did one Q&A meeting with our members, we actually were able to approve and fund a deal within, I think, 2 or 3 business days. But that's an extreme fast case. Typically, you should count on about 30 days for due diligence. And then, yeah. So, I mean, the whole process would be from end to end, from application time to the back end funding, probably 2 to 3 months. So, unless there's a real exception case, that's the timeline that people should be looking at.
All right, perfect. Well, I think Tony, that really summed it up for me and hopefully for the audience here. Any other last thoughts for our viewers here, or maybe is there a place where they can contact with questions?
Yeah, certainly they can contact via the website. There's a way they can submit questions there. The application, they can certainly, once they start, there'll be contact information provided with the application, and they can contact me directly or any of the other members of the review committee. I think in terms of just personal advice to startup founders when they start this application process, and particularly when they're putting the pitch together, I would say just be yourself, be your authentic self, and tell your story. Yeah, you need to cover all of the points that we talked about earlier, the problem, the solution, the team, and all that, but do it in a way that really is you trying to convince someone why you're doing this business, why you're passionate about it, how money out of it, how it's going to help customers. And I think when you do that, then you're going to have investors interested in your deal in the same way that you are.
I love that. I love that. Well, Tony, thank you so much for that. That was an awesome quick summary overview. We did it in about 17 minutes here. I really hope our audience gets a lot of value out of it. And I'm going to wrap up now. And you out there in podcast land, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please share it with your entrepreneur friends. Share it with the world so that we can build great companies. And we look forward to seeing you next time on TCA Crossroads. Take care. Bye-bye.